Lots of SEC love up here today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for hosting this great hearing today. Very important and timely topic. Thank you to all our witnesses for appearing before us, and sorry about the weather. Now, before I jump into questions, I'd like to associate myself with remarks from my colleague from Arizona, Representative Lesko, regarding Title IX, protection of women in women's sports, and really implore you, President Baker, to protect our women athletes, to meet with our women athletes, to address the concerns that they have. I really believe that if the NCAA wants to maintain credibility when it says it wants to protect Title IX, that this is a very important step. And I know you inherited some pretty disastrous decisions, but this is a moment where we have to address this issue and make sure that men are not competing in women's sports. There are 200,000 plus women athletes who are counting on us and you, and I hope we can have your commitment. So I know in your testimony with the Senate that you had been eager to partner with Congress to bolster and protect Title IX protections as it related to NIL. Can you make that same commitment to protect Title IX and women's sports broadly? Specifically, can you commit today to reversing the NCAA's policy adopted under your predecessor that allows biological men to compete in women's sports?
Well, first of all, let me just say I understand the reason this issue is such a complicated one for people and such a challenging one. Almost every governing body that I'm aware of in sports believes there should be a men and a women version, but in very individualized circumstances, there has to be some standard for transgender athletes if they can meet certain conditions
Baker,
to qualify.
Respectfully, and because I do want to get to a very specific question with regard to NIL and the transfer portal, it is not difficult. It is not complicated. It's DNA. There are physiological differences. And let's follow the science. That should be the position. Men are men, women are women, and that is that. So we'll move on because I know this is where we need to get to the heart of the issue. But talking with several of our coaches, there are serious concerns about how to manage a roster with the transfer portal in place. People are pulling their hair out. How can we address these concerns? And do you believe there should be restrictions or consequences for entering the transfer portal multiple times?
I guess what I would say is the Wild West that we talked about before of NIL creates a significant piece of this. And again, I keep coming back to this is not what Mr. Griffin is talking about.
Correct.
This is the issue associated with inducement and in many cases misrepresentation. And part of the reason why I would like to see something like what we proposed, which makes it possible for student athletes to receive additional enhanced educational support from their school, as well as giving their schools the ability to engage with them directly around NIL, I do believe that could help with regard to this without putting the burden on student athletes. This one would actually put it on the schools to do more for student athletes, to support them, and to sustain their relationship with them. But again, in the absence of federal legislation that sort of validates this kind of an approach and makes it possible to do it without turning them into employees, which for your state and many others is a problem, we're just going to end up right back in federal court, which is where we are now on the whole issue of
I know there's an
policy.
antitrust situation that we're really kind of dancing around, and I understand that. And Mr. Griffin, I heard you loud and clear, and I want you to be wildly successful. I want all of our folks to make oodles of money and be wildly successful. It is the inducements that are problematic, that are causing chaos within college sports. And so I do want to set the record straight. One of my colleagues mentioned that the majority, our side of the aisle, is not concerned with the implications of our foreign athletes. That is actually something that was mentioned in our previous hearing on this issue. And I would love for us to find a way to open up NIL opportunities for our foreign athletes. I think that it is a fairness issue. So I just wanted to make sure that we set the record straight on that. And Mr. Jackson, I really appreciate your commentary here today and the time that I have remaining. Can you talk about how your conference has had to alter your recruiting efforts to address some of these issues around inducements and NIL deals?
I was speaking with a coach the other day, and he referred to name, image, and likeness as name, image, and lies. Because one of the things that we have to continually grapple with as a conference is when we have student athletes perform at a certain level, they are constantly besieged by other institutions, bad actors, sometimes with false promises, sometimes with outright inducement in terms of financial compensation to leave that institution to attend another. And as I've said earlier, that is not NIL. That is something very much different. And again, we're very appreciative of the fact that this committee is taking this up because, as President Baker has said, there are certainly things that the NCAA is efforting to do, but we do need your help to have the complete model so that we can keep our student athletes safe and have a fair playing landscape for all of our institutions.
Absolutely. I appreciate all of the commentary. Thank you again for all being here. Mr. Chairman, I yield.